Hello, today's top five has taken a different twist because you might have noticed Rachel is here, or here, depending which way this screen decides to show it.
Yeah.
And we thought it'd be fun to interview Rachel with 5 questions. So today's top five is 5 questions for Rachel. So the first question we've got for Rachel, and at number 5, is what made you decide to home educate?
Well, for this question, I have to go back many, many years. It won't be a long answer, but I used to be, when I was a teacher, I was really anti home education. I'd never met a home educator, but I was very convinced that school was the right place, that like I'd gone through all this training, like how can anyone else do it? And someone I knew decided to home educate, and I was like, oh, this is, yeah, they're making a big bad decision. And so I've gone from that to being very pro. And the main thing I think that changed it is that I moved abroad, and that's a really humbling experience when you suddenly realize that all the things that you hold dear or you think are right are just like, they're just cultural, or in the grand scheme of things, they're not important. Or you meet so many people who do different things differently and do it beautifully. And so I met a lot of home educators who were all very different from the stereotype that I'd imagined. And so I think I got a little bit like enthralled by that. And then when I had kids, and Ezra was like still napping 2 hours a day when we would have been sending him to school. So I just, like, he seemed so young, and what we were doing at home seemed like it was working. So it was just more of a natural progression of what we were doing. Now I think like the more you home educate, the more reasons you gather for doing it. And I was saying to someone recently, like, I think I've just got too like grumpy and quirky to send my kids to school. Like, I don't know how I would cope being a school parent in that system. So I think we love it so much now. And there's like so many other reasons that have been brought in, but originally it was because it just, like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like, what we were doing was working well. But now I could go on for hours. I won't, but I could.
Well, you can watch some of Rachel's other videos all about how she plans on educating.
Yes, exactly.
That's really cool. So you kind of you're inspired and learned more about it, and then it meant you kind of knew what you were doing a bit when you started off, and then you learned more as you've gone along. Okay, and you've learned all about making binder videos because we've seen loads of those, which we love. My favourite one, I think, is your autumn one. What is your favourite binder you have made, Rachel?
Well, disclaimer, I didn't have a printer until 6 months ago, so this is all like a new world for me, which is probably why I've gone a little bit over the top. I'm going to pick 2. The first one is the one that saved me a lot of time, is doing one for a book study, so doing like a little activity for each chapter of the read aloud that we're doing. And whereas before, I'd like the first week of doing that would be so amazingly planned, and then I'd run out of steam, because I've got it all there to just like pick up and go. It saved me a lot of time and kept us consistent for like the whole of the book, rather than petering off a little bit. And my other favorite one is the one that I did for my toddler, which seemed really ridiculous, making him a little workbook, but he loves it so much. And he shouts like car, because it had cars in the very first page. So now he just shouts car, and he wants his book, and he sticks things on, and we talk about it. And it's a really sweet time to have together that I didn't expect that. So I think that's my favorite, just because it was beyond my expectations.
That's amazing. And I love all the different activities because you show so many in them, so it's really cool to see. And
I haven't had to think of any of them myself either. Yeah.
Right, what's the hardest challenge you've overcome as a home educator, though? That was the hardest thing because I'm assuming you didn't just like nothing, it hasn't just all gone well. There's been some tough times.
Work. So I'm not going to say COVID, even though because I think that's like generally for everyone was a big challenge. I think for me, like the first like big challenge was when I'm pregnant, I get really sick, and for the whole 9 months, I just feel really, really rough, and the motivation to do anything is thrown out the window. So trying to do that and home educate, and the first time around especially, just feeling incredibly guilty that I basically took a 9-month break from doing anything with doing anything that I thought was worthwhile, but then realizing like there was one moment where I was throwing up into the sink, and my first kid came up and just like held my hair back and rubbed my back, and I was like, this is what he's learning, like he's learning compassion through this. And similar the second time round when I had like 2 kids, well, third time round, but second time while homeschooling. And I had 2 kids and was sick for like 9 months. And again, just feeling guilty, but it really it changed my expectations of like why I'm doing this. And I overcome that by having my babies and not being sick after that. Yeah, I think that was a really good lesson in like, it sounds cliched, but like letting go of expectations.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, and seeing what you can learn when you might not be necessarily like learning for the day. Like you didn't realize they were going to learn compassion, and actually the children were learning all sorts of other things.
Yeah, and then newborn stage when home editing is like weird as well, but it's like I think I learned like every season is really special and different, and that's okay. Like it doesn't have to be consistent each time, because I think that like my secret aim is that I turn into one of those people that gets up at a certain time, does the same like 3 things, and like achieves all of the things, like can tick everything off the list. And I'm not that person, but I really want to be. But home educators taught me like that actually isn't. Whereas that might be like a process for some people, that isn't the aim for home educating, to just tick things off a list. And so those different.
How do you keep yourself motivated then if you're not like, oh, write a list and just tick everything off? Like what do you do to keep yourself going and like, oh, let's do something new? And
yeah, I was thinking about this because I knew you were going to ask about motivation, and
don't tell everyone that we've already
and I was thinking like, because some days I'm not motivated, and last week was a real, like I just wasn't motivated to do pretty much anything except drink tea and eat chocolate. And thankfully my kids were motivated to do Lego and all sorts of other things. But I think I realized, like when I was thinking on it, understanding like what I'm motivated for is helpful, because sometimes I think I've got to be motivated to do this, and actually I don't need to be motivated to do that. So that doesn't quite answer the question, but that idea of like really thinking through what am I motivated for means that I'm not trying to be motivated for everything, because I can't do everything and not everything is important. But then I think the other massive thing is community, either like online home ed community, which especially during COVID was really important. And especially at the beginning when you're starting out and you don't know any other home educators, like online community is really motivating. But now like in real life, seeing people and not just seeing, oh, this is a lovely thing that they've laid out on their tough tray and it looks so fantastic and my house is a complete tip, but actually just seeing people in day-to-day life just being very normal people and talking to other home educators and hearing what they're doing, their struggles and so on. Like I find all of that really motivating. I don't think I could do it if there wasn't that around.
And that is an amazing part of it. Yeah, that's a really good one. So it keeps you motivated, keeps you going, and it's such an important part.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is your favourite part though? Is it the community? So what is your favourite part of home education?
Can I be really cliched? My
Twinkl?
Kids, not Twinkl, no.
Sorry.
Said that. Oh, not deeper there. Aside from Twinkl, my second love is my children. My kids, like I think that's my favourite thing. Like it's hard work. It's definitely not that I always enjoy having 3 kids around all the time. And I like they have quiet time and I have drinking a cup of tea in silence time, and I need that. But like really what I love most about it is like hanging out with my kids and learning more about them and learning things with them. Like we went to the mosque today and I was learning with them, and like that, I just find that so exciting that we're like growing together. I find that really it's really beautiful. So I think
definitely, especially when you read, like I really enjoy reading new books with them that I haven't read before, and just so much you can take out.
And it sounds so like airy for everybody. Like it's really quite magical when you learn something new with your kids at the same time, and
the different opinions and ideas they have. Yeah.
So definitely my kids.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much, Rachel. Thank you for watching.
Bye. We did a great job.